Hi and welcome. As you can see from the title, my name is Anna True and I am a spirit artist from Somerset in the UK. I'm going to state now I'm incredibly nervous. I've never done anything like this before. I'm way out of my comfort zone. I did do an interview with Adrian Denny years ago on YouTube, but this is different. This is going to be in depth. It's going to be quite a long video and I am just so nervous. So can you please bear with? Now, because I'm really nervous, I've decided to read out my introduction, if that's okay. So here we go. So the reason for this video is because years ago, I started writing a book about my journey to becoming a spirit artist. I wrote 4 chapters and then I hit a wall and I kept going back to it, but I couldn't get moving again. I've recently come to realize that a book is not the answer because I am no writer. And being such a visual person who would much rather watch a video or listen to an audiobook, thought this may also appeal to others, especially as books can be expensive and time-consuming to read. The aim of this video is to share my story from beginning to end, which has been a roller coaster to say the least. This is a journal of my personal experiences with spirit, and if this video goes well, I might do more because I have a head full of stories to tell. Also tips on how to connect with your guides and much, much more. So finally, I will warn you now, I'm incredibly nervous. This is completely out of my comfort zone, so I apologize if I bumble over my words and this video becomes a mess. Please bear with me. I will try and stick to my notes. I've no idea how long this video will be, but if you wish to skip to the childhood stuff and just move straight to my 20s and 30s where it gets more juicy, go ahead. Right, so yeah, this is going to be a longish video, so I don't know if I'm going to do it as like a 3-parter or I'm just going to try and heavily edit it and get it into one video. I don't know yet. So I'm going to start right back from the beginning. And my earliest memory, what I believe of spirit, was when I was about 3 years old. I shared a room with my sister. We had bunk beds and I was on the bottom bunk. And I was petrified of the dark and I had real trouble getting to sleep most nights. So I would lie there and every night I would see in the room floating around the most prettiest, glitteriest objects. And I'm just calling them objects because I don't really know what they were. I don't believe they were beings. They did look like objects. They looked like jewelry. They looked like just like glittery items. And they were really beautiful to watch. And I believe, looking back, that was spirit soothing me and getting me to fall asleep, because a full-bodied apparition is going to scare the crap out of me. And before you say it, for those thinking that, oh, it's just a common eye floater, I've googled that. It did not look like that. It was not the same. So I guess I truly don't know what it was, but it's odd. And it wasn't just glittery objects that I would see. I would see other objects. So a train once appeared, like hovering above my head, and I went to grab it and it just disappeared. You know, so I don't know whether it's I have a really crazy imagination or whether something's going on there. But I would say that's my earliest memory. Moving on, my granddad, he died when I was about 5 years old. And we'd go visit my nan every weekend. And I remember it so vividly. I was fascinated with the stair. I'd stand at the bottom of the stairs and I'd look up the stairs to the landing. And I knew somebody was there. I don't know if it was my granddad, but I knew somebody was there. And I'd be fascinated by this. And I felt scared. I was just a little bit confused. And we'd go visit and we'd walk around the downstairs. And every time I passed the stairs, I had to look up and just stare because I knew something was there. And you know, a lot of children are like this. So I wouldn't say that was like individual to me. But these are my earliest memories of dealing with spirit. And I would stay over at my nan's. And oh my God, like, it was lovely being at my nan's and being with my nan, but staying over was just horrendous. Like, I couldn't sleep at all, and I would be fixated with the doorway. Like, I knew somebody was stood there, and I had to just all night. I'd just keep checking, and so, and it's the same wherever I went. If it wasn't my bed, wherever I went, like, so I went to my Uncle Bob's house in Essex, and we were put in the back room, and I couldn't sleep there because there was just so much going on, and I knew someone was watching me. So there's that. And then, okay, so then moving on to school, massive daydreamer, huge daydreamer. Like, if you read my school reports, you'd just see that Anna is just away with the fairies all the time. She's not concentrating. And it's true. I was a terrible, terrible daydreamer. And this is a true story. I was in maths. I was having an hour maths lesson. This, by the way, was secondary school. And I kid you not, I remember sitting down at the desk, and then I remember the bell going. And I just couldn't like understand for the life of me what just happened. Where have I been for a whole hour? Because I don't know. I don't know where I went for a whole hour. And the weird thing is I don't get how the teacher didn't clock. Like, I must have been off somewhere else, why he didn't clock me. But I know it happened, and I just got up and left when the bell went. But I've since learned that dreaming and creativity is a form of astral projection whereby your consciousness can create its own world, making let me read that again. Dreaming and creativity is a form of astral projection whereby your consciousness can create its own world made of energy that can be shaped by thoughts and emotions. This allows a person to create objects and communicate with other spiritual beings. So there you have it. Now, going back a bit, because I did just talk about secondary school, so I'd say this is like infants and juniors. I was an absolute stationery freak. Like, I was just obsessed with stationery, and it would be all immaculate in my room. And I would spend hours in my room drawing and painting and mucking around with like arts and crafts, and I was always drawing portraits, but I could never draw bodies. I couldn't draw the hands, I couldn't draw arms, like anything. The torso would look weird. I just could not draw bodies, so I just stuck with faces, which I think is kind of interesting. It's almost like the seed has been sowed at an early age. And so where are we? Bear with. Then there was this one afternoon, and it was literally just a pencil and pad, and within minutes I had etched out this incredible portrait of this elderly man, and I just couldn't believe I drew it. Like, wow, I drew that. It was years beyond like my age, and I was so proud of it, and I took it into school, and I couldn't wait to show my art teacher, and he was like, yeah, that's really good. And like, people were gathering around and going, oh wow, that's cool. I don't think they believed me, but I actually believe I channeled and drew my granddad, and I could curse because I don't know where that picture's gone. I'd give anything to have it. Right, so that's probably my first piece of spirit art, I'd say. Then my mum and dad divorced, and so my mum and my siblings, we moved to a 2 up, 2 down. And all my days, this property is freaking haunted. Like, nothing really bad, but so much stuff happened in the time I was there, and it wasn't just me that experienced it. It was my sister, and my mum saw stuff. So I'll just give you a flavour. Like, things would go missing. Like, you'd leave it on your bedside table and they would go missing, and then you would find it like a year later down the back of someone's bed. It's just freaky. and then having your name called just as you're going off to sleep, which I know is a common phenomena, but it kept happening, and it sort of became a game, and it happened to my sister. And I just think that there was more to it than that, because like my sister didn't have a very nice experience one night. Something came at her and it really messed her up. And then one time I was coming down the stairs and I saw a shadow figure go across my lounge. And I was like, oh my God. But I wasn't scared though. But I went into the kitchen and I said to my mum, I said, you ain't gonna believe what I just saw. And then she said, wow, she said, I've just seen a shadow figure going across the lounge. And like my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my God, I've literally just seen this. But she's not very, she's not a big believer, so nothing really was talked about after that. Then the biggie was, and this, I have no explanation for this either. So my brother had moved to stay with my dad in Denmark, and I hadn't seen him for like a couple of years, and he came back to visit. And as brothers and sisters do, we were having like a tat for tat argument. And he was like yelling upstairs, I was yelling back down. And then my sister calls up and she's like, who are you yelling at? And I was like, well, I probably shouldn't say his name, but my brother. It's like, he's not here. Sorry, I've messed that right up. So let me go back. So I was calling down the stairs and he was calling back up, and we were having this argument. And then my sister goes, well, who are you talking to? And I said, well, my brother. Like, I was talking to him. I'm having an argument with him. And then she said, oh, no, he left ages ago. You can't be arguing with him. And I was like, well, I really was. I said I was. She said, no, you couldn't have. He's gone. Like, he left ages ago. And I'm like, well, who the hell have I been arguing with? It was his voice. So that is incredibly strange. And they do say that grounded spirits, earthbound spirits can mimic. Maybe whoever this entity was in the house was just like having some fun with me. But, it makes for an interesting story. So it was around this time so it was like 1990s, 2000s, where like UFO aliens and like spiritual videos started to become really popular. And like they were like all the rage. And me and my sister, even though we were like petrified of all this stuff, we got really into it. Like when the Roswell crash documentary came out, like I was like fixated. My sister didn't sleep for like 3 days. But and we were dabbling in tarot. Like, oh, I loved looking at the pictures. And of course we didn't really know what we were doing. Very naive, we're just kids, but mucked around with that. And it was also around this time that I got heavily into tribal cultures, especially Native Americans. I was absolutely fascinated. I was like a sponge. I could not get enough of learning about all the different cultures. I had posters everywhere. I went and cheekily got a tattoo, a tribal tattoo, which I shouldn't have. But I was just so in awe of it. If somebody had said to me, Anna, do you want to go live in a teepee for the rest of your life? I would have at that point. And that's where I started to learn a lot of spiritual teachings, was through like Native American culture and beliefs. And again, at this time, so like what would I have been? This is like 11 onwards. I was absolutely fascinated with astrology and astronomy. I was obsessed with the stars and the constellations, so much so that I would actually stay up all night, listening, like my headphones on, all night, just watching the constellations slowly go across my window, because I was on the top bunk by this time. So I had a great view. There was no light pollution, so I could see everything. And my mum didn't know that I stayed up all night, but I didn't care how tired I was for school. I just absolutely loved it. And it made me feel like I was connected, and I could sort out all the stuff going on in my head. Another crazy ass thing I did was I would sneak out of the house in the middle of the night and I would go to the park, which was a few minutes walk, a children's park, and I would just sit on the swings for hours playing my music on my Walkman, and again just watching the stars, listening to my music, and just I absolutely loved it. And I could sit there for hours, like the sun would be just starting to come up. And I get it, I know that's a really dangerous thing to do, because I'm not gonna lie, there were some dog walkers. Like, I'm thinking, why are you walking your dog at 3 a.m? And I mean, yeah, it was dangerous, but like, I'm naive, I didn't care. I just needed to get out of the house. I needed to be with my thoughts, and I'd go home and then I'd pack my bag and I'd go to school. So that's just kind of like a flavour of what type of kid I was, what I was into, how I was slowly getting into like the things under the spiritual umbrella. And so then we move on, and I'm like 16, I'm at college, and I have a job on a deli counter. Now this building is like proper haunted, like everybody knew it, but being a sensitive, it's a little bit more difficult. And I would remember I'd have to change in the toilets to get into my uniform, and it was a real case of like, you knew you were being watched, you hated every second of being in that cubicle, and you just wanted to quickly get your clothes off and get your uniform on, and then the same when you leave. And on this top floor of this proper old building, which I will explain a bit more about this later, they obviously had like all the warehouse stuff, all the stock was on these shelves, and it was a very dark bit of the building, and you could just feel things following you around, and it just like really played with your head. And again, like I said, being sensitive, you just pick up on it, and it does make things a little bit harder. Like, I had to stay a few times last thing at night to help lock up, and I didn't like it at all. So where are we now? So yeah, about where I live and why where I worked was so haunted. I live in Wales, Somerset. It's like the southwest of England, and oh my god, it's like this. This isn't like an ancient, I'd say a very medieval old city, and it's only called a city because it has a cathedral. Otherwise, I would classify it as a small town. You know, everybody knows everybody. It's small. And just to give you, I think I'm repeating myself now, but just to give you a flavour. So literally a stone's throw from my house, the house I'm in now, is the gallows. That's where everybody got hung in the Middle Ages. And people do not like walking down Shady Lane. And I think there are other places, correct me if I'm wrong, that stuff like that went on. Then we've got the lunatic asylum. This is pretty messed up because there are a lot of unmarked graves. It was not a nice place to be, and they're still digging up graves and trying to identify who these poor souls were. Then we've got the oldest residential street in Europe. It's called Vickers Close. It's so freaking old. And so that's quite interesting. It is a really cool road, to be fair. And then there's obviously all the stories of rituals that have gone on the land in and around Wales. So there are like certain estates you don't really want to live on because it's just like heavily tainted with stuff that has gone on. And then of course I've got Glastonbury Tor literally up the road. And anybody that knows anything about Glastonbury, it's a very spiritual place. People go there, people pilgrimage there, and that's the fact that that's just up the road. And I've also got lots of UFO activity around here. That you get reports of that. I mean, it was a few years ago, and we had birds dropping out of the sky and just dying, loads of them dying on this person's driveway, and I think that made the news actually. And then finally we've got Stonehenge, which isn't far from here. That's just a shortish drive, And that's obviously got ley lines around it. So the reason I'm telling you this is like, of all the places I could have chose to incarnate, I chose to dump myself was like in an absolute hot pot of all types of phenomena and spiritual activity that you could wish to think of. So yeah, I think there's definitely got to be something in that. Right. So then basically moving on, life took over. I was studying graphic design. I got married. I had my 2 kids, and I was just like, spirituality and dabbling any of that just went to the wayside because I'm busy. I'm a mum and a wife, and I've got stuff to do. So then this is where things start amping up. I noticed that my dreams were starting to come true. Well, I had actually started noticing this when I worked at the deli counter, but it was far and few between. So just to give you some insight of what I'm talking about, is I had a dream that my boss was going to die, and within a matter of months, it was so quick, he got cancer and he just died. And I just like, oh my God, that's come true. That's actually come true. And things like that started to become more of a common theme as I got older. It got to the point where like I decided to keep a blog. I need to write all this down. You know, these aren't, my dreams weren't just giving me messages, but they were proper like premonitions of what's going to happen. And you know, I'd be told about natural disasters. I'd be told that I was going to have an argument with my sister, and I forgot about the dream. A few days later, me and my sister, we were having a few drinks in town. We had a tiff, and then I remembered the dream showed me exactly which way I was going to walk home. I was going to go by my mum's house. I was in tears. You know, it's like the whole thing was mapped out, and I was shown it days before it happened. And then a really sad one was, bless him, my cat Sam. He lived to 19 years old, proper old. And I was told the day before that he was going to die, and then he was gone within 24 hours. And I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, it's hard. You get a dream and you're like, oh crikey, is that going to happen? I literally had a dream a couple of days ago about a friend of ours, and I'm kind of hoping that doesn't come true. So, you know, it can be a bit burdensome being given the heads up. But so I decided to keep a blog. I was absolutely fascinated by my dreams. Oh my days. I mean, like I've said, I'm a big dreamer, a big daydreamer, but my dreams are insane. I can have nights where I will dream one dream after the other, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, that was a whole night of dreaming. And I can have nights where it's literally like I've just watched a DVD, a proper film. I don't mean it's like a DVD, like watching a DVD. Like I've watched a film, and there's characters in it, and there's a really cool plot, and I'm like, it's like I've just watched like I created and watched my own video, like I've been to the cinema, and I wake up and I'm like, oh, that was a nice video, that was a nice film. So I just think that's insane. So the blog thing was massive. I kept a log for months and months, and you know, the children would go off to school. I'd grab 10 minutes and then I'd type up everything that had happened and what I dreamt that night. So then I started hearing voices. So I'd be in a relaxed state, normally just about to drift off to sleep, and I would hear words and voices and bangs and whatnot, which I know is a common thing. You know, this isn't unusual. But I must admit, I was really excited by this. This is so cool. Why is this now started? And I kept hearing it and going with it for a few weeks, and then I decided to Google it, and I was so deflated. I read that it's a common phenomenon. It's merely you're in that stage of sleep where you're still sort of conscious, but you're half drifting off, and it's your brain's way of digesting the day's information. Where the voice is just a snippet of an advert I'd heard or something off the radio. And I was so deflated. I thought, oh, okay, so that's that then. Wow. But thing is, as time went on, I just thought there's got to be more to it than this. This is insane. So I actually decided to write everything down. I got myself a little notebook and a pen with a light on it because I don't want to wake my husband up. And I kept it under my pillow. And when the voices came, I would write it down because I didn't want to forget it. I wanted to look at this in the morning and analyze it. So I've got here, this is where are we? Here we go. This is the first thing I wrote down in my book. Richard's back. He's a spirit. He's walked his dogs and he's literally had enough. He's about 25 years old. And I'm like, sorry, but I just think that's a bit more than just hearing the odd voice while you're not enough to sleep phenomenon. So I decided to keep going with it, and I was writing everything down. And then in the morning, I had like an online blog. I had the Blogger app, and I would write it all up on that. And so it was around this time that me and my mate, she's lovely lady, very spiritual. We've been wanting to have a clairvoyant reading for years, but the thought of it just scared the crap out of me. Like, it really did. And I hadn't personally known of anybody get one, and I thought people are going to think I'm nuts, but I really want a clairvoyant reading. And eventually we plucked up the courage to ring round and see if we could get an appointment. And we came across this lady. We got booked in, and oh my god, the days running up to it, I was just like, the thought of the unknown. What's this lady going to say? I was just like a hot mess, but I was excited too. And it turns out this lady, no crap, of all the people we could have contacted in the southwest for a reading, this lady lives at the bottom of my road, literally. She walks by my house every day walking her dog, and I didn't know she existed. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I'll explain about her more, like my connection to her later on. But I went to this reading and it was insane. Like, she brought through my grandparents and she knew what was in my fridge, and it was just like, the only way I can describe it is I left that day like some, sorry to sound cheesy, but something clicked in me. It was like, I felt like, oh my god, everything's clicked into place. Everything I believed, she's just confirmed it all. And I was walking on air. I was like, when can I have my next reading? And of course, you've got to wait a decent amount of time. You can't have them too close together. But I just couldn't wait for my next reading. So it was after this that the faces started appearing to me. So not only now do we have voices, we have faces. And I would see them with my eyes shut, and I would see them with my eyes open. And they would come at me, they would come close, they could zoom out, or I could zoom in on them and see their facial features. Sometimes it would just be one person, sometimes it would just be like several. Sometimes it would be the whole space is filled with hundreds, maybe thousands of people just staring at me, like this humongous crowd. And I was never scared. I was more interested in focusing and seeing where this went. And this is just mind-boggling. Like, I know I sound nuts, but this is the God's honest truth. And so, where are we? But I'd like to say here, it wasn't all good, because I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know anything about protection. I had no idea that I was basically a beacon, like a moth to a flame for anything floating around who just wanted to find someone to like connect with. So not only was I seeing good stuff, I was seeing lovely people, seeing animals and whatnot. I was also seeing faces and creatures that like literally not even my crazy ass imagination could develop, could create. It was the most disgustingest looking creatures, people that I got, honestly I can't explain it. It was just so bad. And that comes with it. It's like the human mind could not make up how ugly these creatures and people were. And that's the lower vibrations, because you attract all sorts. And that wasn't so pleasurable, obviously. So it was only when down the line when I realized I need to protect myself, I need to be, boundaries and make sure that I do have a peaceful sleep and these things don't come in. So then I had my second reading with this lady, this clairvoyant lady, and I went down and I had an amazing reading, and she said to me, she said, "Oh, you're going to be working from home." And I was like, "No, I'm not." She said, you are." She said, "I don't know what it is." She said, "But it's going to be creative." She said, "I don't know whether you're designing tattoos or making like cards and selling them." She said, "I just know that it's creative and you're going to be working from home." And I'll tell you now, I just couldn't vibe with it. I was just like, I don't really know what you're talking about. I can't see it. But you take what you want from a reading, what you can accept and what resonates with you, and then you just park the rest in case it comes up in the future, because you shouldn't just disregard it and sort of go, "Oh, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about." So I just parked it. And then the funny thing is that all our readings are done on audio, like CD. And so you take your CD, and I couldn't wait to go home and put it on and play it to my husband. So even though my husband is a non-believer, by the way, but it's still fascinating for him to listen to my readings. And the audio failed. There was no voices. There was no reading. And I was like, "Oh gosh, this is awkward." I was like, I contacted her that evening and I said, "Look," I said, the CD don't work." She said, "But I know I pressed record." She was adamant. She said, "I'm so confused." She said, "Would you mind quickly popping back down with the CD? We'll have a look at it." And I did. And she put it in the machine. Now, the weird thing is, you could hear that something had been recorded. You could hear the noise. You could hear the static. It had been recorded for the amount of time I was there. But I kid you not, there were no voices. You couldn't hear her. You couldn't hear me. But that period of time had been recorded. It's a bloody mystery. But we kind of just put it down to maybe whatever was on that CD was for no one else's ears. It's been erased. Spirit work in mysterious ways. Now, but here's the thing. So like a few days later, she figured out where I lived, and she knocked on my door, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, I feel really bad about the CD not working. I do apologize." And I just thought that was so nice that she thought to knock on my door, because that's quite brave. Now, I had a friend with me at the time. We were having like a cheeky couple of drinks in the afternoon. And I was like, "Well, do you wanna come on in and meet my friend?" And she did. She came in. We had a couple of glasses of wine with her, and we chatted for ages, and it was brilliant. Now, here's the thing. Had that CD not recorded properly, had it recorded properly, I wouldn't have gone back down her house, and she wouldn't have felt bad about the CD not working properly. Therefore, she wouldn't have knocked at my door, and I wouldn't have invited her in, and we wouldn't have chatted and got to know each other, and we became firm friends. we were hooking up a lot. She lived at the bottom of my road. It was convenient. She'd walk by with a dog and just pop in. It was lovely. So, do you see how things happen? The CD was supposed to fail for a reason. And then basically I started drawing. I decided I was going to start drawing the faces I was seeing. And then one night, back up. The reason why I decided to start drawing the faces was one night, the most angelic boy, like, just manifested. And he had these big, gorgeous, angelic eyes and a mop of blonde hair. He was absolutely adorable. I mean, I'll never be able to capture in a drawing how angelic he was. And I could not wait to pack the kids off to school. I found some scratchy old pencils that we had in our office, and I couldn't wait. I didn't touch any housework. I just had to quickly do this picture so I didn't forget it. And I won't tell you who the little boy is because it's personal to me, but I'll show you a photo. Sorry, not a photo. I'll show you the image. So this is the first picture I ever drew of Spirit, this little boy, and I absolutely love him to bits. So you have that. Right. And then I went on to draw more pictures because a little girl was hanging around my house. She was tiny, she's wearing a little dress, and she was having a mooch in my ensuite bathroom. And I could see her in the doorway. She was looking in, so I didn't see her face, but she was looking in, and she was just like fascinated by my ensuite. And then I heard a lady say, "Matilda," and her name was Matilda, and this lady called her, and then she just ran away. And I was like, oh my God. So then I went and drew her. Can you see? So there's the mirror, there's the sink, and this is the doorway, and these are the green tiles. And she's just like looking in and just fascinated by this bathroom. So yeah. Then I basically had a third reading with my clairvoyant friend. And again, she was like, it won't go away. You're going to work from home. You are going to work from home. And I just said, no, I don't think I am. I was getting a bit more brave with her. And I was just like, no, I'm sorry. I just can't see it. Now, it was after this. This is the juicy bit. This is when I guess Spirit thought, I cannot drop you any more clues, Anna. You're getting voices, you're getting faces. You know, I'm dropping hints into your clairvoyant readings. Like, what more can we do to show you where you're supposed to go? So it's like they pulled out all the stops, and my house went nuts. Like, my life got turned upside down. And it actually even made it into a magazine. Hang on. It actually made it into Chat It's Fake, because this is just insane. So I've got a list here. I have to read the list because I can't remember it all. But so we were experiencing power cuts. Our phone line got cut for 3 whole weeks. Don't know why. Our internet connection was barely usable. Yeah, our service provider, we'd be constantly phoning them up, and they'd say, no, there's no issues. So that was weird. And our bedroom lights would flicker, and that would be like, I'd just be like, oh God, you know. And appliances and devices kept breaking and malfunctioning. So, for example, my husband's e-reader just broke, kaput. The vacuum cleaner died. My son's iPad completely died with no explanation. Even little things like my husband's key fob for the car, that just died. My brand new laptop, it started going faulty and became riddled with viruses, even though I had plenty of antivirus protection software on there. And oh my God, and it would switch on at 3 a.m. in the morning, which would obviously pardon my French, but would shit me right up. And then like our TV box became faulty. Now, if that wasn't enough, the strange faults from around the home then became physical as well as electrical. So our ensuite bath sprang a leak and it flooded the entire second floor. The radiator thermostats kept blowing and we were constantly having to replace them. Our boiler broke, leaving us with no heating or hot water for 2 months during a really, really icy cold January and February. I am not kidding. Like, no heating with 2 young kids. No hot water. We had to have 2 kettles going all the time so that we could bath, make cups of tea and hot water bottles. It was just horrendous. And then I started I'd always suffered with migraines since I was 17, but they were getting really bad now. And lucid dreaming, lots of lucid dreaming. Then the ability to see orbs with my naked eye around the house. And then the best yet to come was making things go wrong, like even when I'm out the house. So I went to one shop and went to the till, it malfunctioned. The lady was fiddling with it for ages and she said, this is odd, it's never done this before. She called somebody over and they were like, no, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so I leave the shop, I go to another shop, and the exact same thing happens, and they're like all sort of running around going, oh, I really don't get why the till won't work at all. So, I mean, it's like spirit were following me, doing everything they could to get my attention. And I can imagine they were probably screaming like, oh my God, she must be the slowest person on the planet. So anyway, it got to the point where I was so freaked out. I thought I had a poltergeist. I couldn't take no more. And I mailed my, God, I just heard a knock then. Anyway, I am in my drawing room, and this is the waiting room. This is where they wait to be drawn. So there's always activity in here. So I called her up and I said, can you please come to the house? You need to check it out. I'm going insane. And I'll never forget it. She walked in. I remember walking into the lounge and she was just like, oh, what is going on in here? What the hell? She said, the energy is all over the place. We've got to sort this out. And then that's when I showed her the pictures I'd been drawing. And then it all just clicked into place. She was like, oh my God, I get it now. I get it. Spirit are not only trying to get your attention, she said, but you're so open. You're such a sensitive. You know, you don't know what you're doing with your energy, and you are actually manifesting this yourself. Hence why the teals were breaking. Everything I touched was breaking. But they're like, there's so much stuff coming in and out of your house. It's just like a hot mess. And she said, and spirit are trying to get your attention because these pictures, you are meant to be drawing the faces you see. You're meant to be a spirit artist. Now, I'd never heard of a spirit artist. I didn't know what she was talking about. And I'll be really honest, I was just like, no. I said, I'm not interested in that. I politely said, I want to concentrate on my clairaudience and like the faces. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm just not interested. But she wasn't having it. So then I'll come to this bit in a minute. I was going to explain to you about my guide Matt, my main guide, amazing Matt. No, that comes in a minute. So basically, my friend, same lady, clairvoyant lady, she's like, do you want to come to the healing weekend with me? It's a massive event near where I live, huge mind, body and spirit fair. It's like a 3-day event, and she was exhibiting there for the first time, and she needed a buddy, and you could camp there. And she was like, should we do it? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun, I'll go. So we went over there, and so she was exhibiting, and I remember it was like day one. I was walking around this big place, and it was amazing. It's just like stalls everywhere of every spiritual thing you could think of, and there were spirit artists there. And I booked in with this one lady, and I had a spirit portrait done. And I remember just like watching her every move, seeing how she does it, how she, like, you know, does she look at the sky? Is she got her eyes shut? I just was fascinated by it, utterly fascinated. And I took a picture, and I was walking around all these big fields. And then I'm like, oh wow, like in this field there's another spirit artist, and then in that field there's another spirit artist, and I was watching them. And this is the bit, the big juicy bit. Literally the only way I can describe it is my stomach, my guts were being pulled, like like a switch went on my back. And I don't mind admitting it, I'm a very honest person. I want to be transparent, because jealousy isn't a good thing, but I was so jealous. I was just like, oh my God, I want to be doing that. I should be doing that. I can do that. And I was just like, I've got to do this now. I want to be a spirit artist right now. And that night we were sat in our tent, and I was just like, I want to do this so badly. I want to do it. And then she was like, and you will, but you got to practice. And I was like, I will. As soon as we get back, I'm going to be on it. And then where did we go with this? So, and I did. I practiced so hard on friends and family and other people I could get hold of. And my clairvoyant friend, she found me some clients. And it was like, it was either free of charge or like donation only, you know, because I'm practicing, right? So you don't ask for payment. And it was around this time that I was desperate to find out or meet or connect with my guardian angel, whether you call it your main spirit guide, guardian angel. And I remember asking, begging out loud, and putting out the intent so badly that I wanted to connect with my main guide. And I was patient, I waited, nothing happened. But then a few days later, one night I had a dream, and I never saw my guide, but I was given the name Matt 3 times. So I was just like, oh my God, I just knew. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, that's my guide. He's called Matt. Oh my God, Matt. And I was just like, they knew, because I'm obsessed. Everything has to be in 3s. I'm obsessed with the number 3. And they knew that if they said it 3 times clearly, because it was like Matt, clear, like they knew I would pick up on it. And I was just so excited. And it wasn't long after that I actually saw Matt, my main guide Matt, for the first time. So I remember waking up, a bit blurry-eyed, must admit, and I sat up, and I kid you not, he was stood in my bedroom doorway. Like he honestly, big beaming smile, looked so happy to see me, so excited, like he was bursting with joy, wearing jeans and a paisley red top, and he waved at me, and he had his glasses on and his sort of curlyish blondish hair, and he just waved at me, and to like literally 1 second, and disappeared. And I was just like, and this is the morning, it's like the sun's coming in, so, and it was a like full-bodied apparition. And I must admit, it took about a minute or so for me to digest it. I was having my morning wee, and I was just like, and then the penny dropped, and I was just like, oh my God, like I got the gravity of it. Like I've just literally seen a full-bodied apparition, and I just knew it was Matt. I did. I knew it was him. So I felt utterly compelled to draw him like the other people. And that day, okay, bear in mind, this was years ago. So this is quite a crude portrait. But this is my first picture of Matt. Okay. So you can see he's got like the patterned shirt. He's waving at me. He's got that really cheeky smile. And so this is, oh gosh, I get emotional. Anyway, so that was huge. It's like, I'm the guy you're going to be working with. I'm your main guide. And I'd just like to add at this point, he has come through in so many clairvoyant readings. It's insane. It's like they've picked up on his personality, because he is eccentric. He is really larger than life. He's bubbly. He's funny. He's like just such a crazy hoot. He's so funny. And they've mediums who don't know me and they don't know each other. They have picked up on his character traits, what he looks like, and described him to a T, even things about his life. So the fact that he was a musician, he loved the guitar, he had a motorbike, things like that. Like I know a lot about him, but I won't go into all that. That's one for another video. So while I'm practicing, literally got out of bed one morning, and it was like Lightbulb Moment. Bit like when I was in the healing weekend, when my guts went nuts. Like you got to do this. You got to become a spirit artist. It was like, I've got to have a website. I was just like pulled. I had to have a website right now. That's what they were guiding me to do. And I phoned up my husband. And by this point, I told you earlier, my husband is a non-believer, a complete atheist. So anything I say now, I don't really think registers really. He's just like, oh, it's Anna again, saying stuff. And I was like, I need a website now. And he was like, right, okay, we can sort something out. And 2 weeks later, I had a website. A month later, it went live. It was fully operational and people could buy portraits. So that was huge. And yeah, I literally, I wasn't charging very much. It was a pittance, but it's not about the money. It was about finding out whether am I supposed to be doing this, and will I get any orders? It was such a nervous time. I turned the office. This used to be our office. It's now my drawing room. I've got myself a desk, and I've got all my bits, all my materials. So there were startup costs, but not too much. Again, I love talking about money, but the reason I'm saying it is for anybody who's actually thinking of seriously doing this as like a full-time spiritual job. So, but honestly, it's like you don't do this type of work for the money. That's one thing you don't do. This is not about carving out a career and seeing how much you can make, because I don't know any spirit artists that make lots of money. It's not about that, because I don't mind admitting I don't make much, and I'm blessed to have a really supportive husband. But I've been put in this position, in this situation, so that I am able to be of service to spirit. The money is just a byproduct. I do this for the love of it, because I cannot see myself doing anything else. This is it for me. Like I say to people, if you were to take spirit art away from me right now, it would be like pulling the plug on a life support machine. I have to be of service, and it's everything to me. So, and I agonize over my portraits, you know. Just if anybody thinks this is amazing, you just sit there drawing all day and posting them out, and how amazing is that? Yes, I do that, but there's so much more to it. I agonize over my portraits. I will not let them go in the post until I'm happy with them. And because I'm not a born artist, you know, I haven't been to fine art school, I haven't been born with some amazing talent for drawing. I'm self-taught. I have to try so hard every time. I still have books I need to look at to make sure that I get the noses right or a certain expression right. If the head is slightly tilted to one side, I really struggle with that. And I'm, like I said, I'm being honest and transparent. You know, there have been times, only on the very rare occasion, where I have had to start a portrait from scratch. I've completed it, it's ready to go in the envelope, and I've just stared at it and gone, I can't let it go, it's not right. And I've had to start from scratch. But that's because I care. I've got to be doing the right by the client and the spirit, and so that I can sleep at night and know that I have done a good job. And then there's the reading that goes with it. I sometimes agonize over those. Have I worded it right? Because, like I said, I'm no writer. You know, I will never be a writer. It's just not my bag. I've always been a visual person. I've never been a fan of reading books. I'm not super academic. I mean, I got all right grades, but it's always just been about visual stuff for me. You know, I don't care about that academic stuff. So, yeah. And in the readings, I'm like, I don't want to, sorry, let me rephrase this. I want to, from my scribbled notes when I'm channeling, I try my best to write a coherent reading so that I can give a flavour of who to the recipient of who their guide was. I might get a name, I might get like what they used to do as employment, about their family, you know, sometimes how they died. I mean, it's really like a mishmash. It can be, every reading's different. So I'm really waffling now, aren't I? Crikey. So yeah, we're coming to the end of this video now, really. I will say at the beginning, it was slow. Like for the first 3 weeks, I think I only had like 2 orders, and then it just got better and better. And my drawing skills slowly started to get better. I went from grayscale, just from doing just pencil, to then experimenting with pastels and charcoals, watercolors, Sharpies. I use different types of Prisma pencils. I've got so much stuff. That's another video. I can show you all the stuff I have. I've got tons of it. Basically anything that I can put on paper to create the portrait that needs to go out to the recipient. And yeah, it's just gone from strength to strength. I've been doing this just under a decade now. And yeah, I've been in 3 magazines. I've had my work featured in 2 books. I've had an article done on me in America, which I knew nothing about. That was absolutely insane. Couldn't figure out why I was getting all these orders from America, one after the other. And I was out for the day with my family at the time, and I said to my husband, I actually got it in my head that I'd been spammed. Spammed? Sorry, I actually got it into my head that I've been scammed. Yeah, I was just like, this is insane. This is like creepy. What is going on? And it eventually, later that day, this lady from America messaged me and said, you do realise that you're in an article. This guy had just found me and obviously liked what I did and decided to write about me, put my mugshot there and my website, and it just, like, it was insane. I had months months of orders, and yeah, and then I went on to do some events. I did a year where I did like exhibited at 6 shows, and it was just, I feel so blessed. I feel really humbled that I have been placed here to do this. Like, I'm not like gonna get, I don't want to get emotional about it, but I do really feel so blessed and privileged to be working for Spirit. And I can't thank my guide, my main guide, Matt, enough. I love him so much, and all my spiritual team. And before I clock off, because this is a very long video now, if you've got this far, thank you for watching. If you want to ask a question or put a comment, please be kind. You know, this is just my personal experience. These are, you know, my views. So if there's another spirit artist out there or somebody who doesn't agree with what I've said, that's fine, but please just be kind if you comment. And yeah, and if you want more videos on this, I've got loads of videos I can think of doing. How to connect with your guides, how to connect with other people's guides, but you've got to ask their permission. That's like the golden rule. How I protect myself, how I do my aura cleanses, the experiences I've had in being out and about as a sensitive, as a spirit artist. I was going to say psychic artist then. I'm not a psychic artist, by the way, I'm a spirit artist. Yeah, I've had some crazy ass things happen to me in hotels because I'm a sensitive. I've got so much stuff I can talk to you about guides' names, the costumes, why they come through in certain bodies, certain costumes. About guides who've had difficult incarnations, and just all sorts of things. I've got a million stories to tell you about the things that have happened to me while I've been opened up for the last decade or so. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Apologies if it is super edited and I'm just cutting in and out, because I think I have made quite a few boo-boos and stumbled over my words. And thank you for watching, and take care. Bye for now.